Hello everyone, it's Michael Bentley with Ableversity. Today I'm going to show you how to configure Stream on Ubuntu to send to Cribl Stream workers in Docker with NGINX Network Load Balancer in front of all that for free. Now step one is you have to complete the prerequisite here. And in this case, the prerequisite is our former video where we showed you how to configure Cribl Stream with an distributed environment and an NGINX load balancer in front of it. I'll show you that video here in just a second once I get done typing it out. But basically, it was the previous video in the series, or one of the previous videos in the series. So we'll give you a link real quick to go check that out. I got to go find it real quick. I'll pull up YouTube and see if we can find it for you. But it's about a 20-minute video where we set up the distributed environment with NGINX in front of it. So if you haven't done that already, please go ahead and take the time to do that. And once you're done with that, you can come back to the videos, right? So and follow along the rest of this video. What I would do is go ahead and pause this one, subscribe, like us, bookmark us, whatever you got to do to get back to us. But here's the YouTube channel, the Ableversity channel, right? And in here, this is the actual video I want you to do as a prerequisite for this one. Okay, so how to add NGINX in front of Cribl and Docker for free is the name of the video, and there is the actual link to it. So I'm just going to update my notes a little bit here to be the correct name of the video. All right, and I want you to just do that one again as step one before we get started. So that's 20 minutes. Again, go ahead and like, thumbs up, subscribe, whatever you got to do, bookmark so that you can come back to us, and then proceed with step two here. All right. Now, step two is fairly simple. We're going to modify the Docker Compose YAML, the previous one that we created in step one. So I say this is fairly simple. It may be the most complicated step of this entire tutorial. And that's because we're actually going to have to go get some files from GitHub or go get a file from GitHub. We're going to have to open up this compose file in Notepad, which means I've got to go to the command prompt with start run command in Windows or CMD. Go ahead and do that. Okay. And then I'm going to have to go into the directory we created in the last video. Before I do that, I'm going to increase the font size this time so everybody can see my terminal window. Nobody complained about that, but I keep forgetting to do it, so I'm doing it this time. I'll go with 28-point font. That should make it visible for everyone. All right, so like I said, I'm going to CD into the previous folder that we were working in, project folder. We had a Cribl with NGINX folder, and then I'm going to use Notepad on that Docker Compose file. Okay, and I can never remember if it's .yml or .yaml. I don't think it matters. If you know the difference or if it even matters, go ahead and throw that in the comments for us, for everyone else. But basically, I've used VI out of habit. I actually want to run it in Notepad. So here it is in Notepad. And I've already replaced it with the contents from GitHub. But I'll type this out. I'll replace the contents, those that I found on our GitHub, and then I'll give you the link to our GitHub, which is basically the same one as the previous lesson. So if you still have that one open, all you need to do is add the number 1 to the end of Docker Compose before the .yml or the file extension. But here's the full path for you. It's github.com/bentleymi/misc/blob/main/docker/cribl/docker-compose the number 1.yml. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. We'll open it up in our browser. Okay. And what I do here is I go to the raw button, the raw view of it, which just lets me copy it in plain text and not get anything else off the page. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. And I copied that, I pasted it in there one more time just for good measure to show you. And then I wasn't really sure if I pasted the right thing or if it's the same that I had, so I just want to go through, double check, make sure I don't have any strange spaces or weird errors there. So I pasted it in a couple of times just to be sure. And then we want to save the file. So I use Alt F and then S. That's my shortcut. You can also just go to File and Save when we want to save the file. So again, I do Alt plus F. That opens the file menu. And then I can just press S. I don't have to do Alt F plus S. Instead, do Alt F and then S. Okay. You do it that way, or you can go to File and then Save. No big deal. More one way to save this notepad document. But we want to save it for sure. Get that done. And then we'll move to step 3. Now, if you just did the previous tutorial, you're going to have the old environment running. So we want to go ahead and delete that environment. It had some settings from the old Docker Compose file, and that might be a problem for us. So what we want to do is clear that out. The way I do that is I open Docker Desktop. And so I'll switch over to the Docker Desktop real quick. And here you have this entire environment here underneath Cribl with NGINX. I can just click on delete and it's going to delete all of those containers in that project all at once. The entire project's gone now. Okay, so you want to make sure you do that so there's no conflicts. And then step 4 is to use the Docker Compose command to rebuild the environment. The same command we had before, it's Docker Compose up -d -- scale workers equals 2. Type that out for you here. Scale workers equals 2. Okay, we'll copy that and we'll just paste it right into the same place where we were. Okay, in that project folder. And we'll see it's going to go ahead and get these started. Now the new thing is it has an Ubuntu 1 there. Before you had NGINX master workers, but you didn't have Ubuntu 1. Now I may actually have to download that image in your environment. I already had it, but so you might get a little bit different output, but you should see the same thing. Here you'll have an Ubuntu. The ports are all the same as before, so nothing's changed there, except for now we're running the Ubuntu instance with 9001 pointing through to 9000 on the container itself. That was actually in the Docker Compose, so you don't have to worry about setting that port. It should be set for you if you copied from our GitHub. Right. Let's look at this file just a bit about what the changes were. So here's the Ubuntu instance I added, and I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it. It's using the latest Ubuntu image, okay? And then we do this entry point thing. What this does is it keeps the container up and running. So basically it's going to tell dev null forever. There's those ports I mentioned. We also want to use that backbone network so it can talk to the other images in our container, okay, or other containers in our project. Now what I did with the NGINX is I added a lot to it. So before we actually logged in and configured NGINX, now I'm going to do it with the Docker Compose command. I'm going to do it with this command option. You'll see it here. That's basically everything we did before. The APK add NGINX mod stream, the copying of the stream configuration, the modification. I used VI. I went in and edited it and we typed it in the last one. But now we're just going to use echo. We're going to automate that entire process. It's going to basically echo those strings out and append them to the nginx stream.conf. Once it's done, it's going to stop nginx if it's running and kick it off again. So what that'll do is it's got this if statement at the top, and that if statement only works if that file is found. So that means if the file is not found. So if you run the Docker Compose command multiple times, it won't keep doing the same thing. It'll find that file the second run and it'll stop it. So if you look at the previous one, the NGINX was a lot smaller, right? It didn't have those extras in it. When we go back to the new Docker Compose, you'll see you have all these extra stuff, including the Ubuntu. All right, so that's the changes we made to that file. And basically, it's just going to configure the NGINX to listen on 5140 and to send to the Cribl stream workers via load balancing least connections. Now we want to install Cribl stream on Ubuntu. Okay, well, we use Docker Compose to set up NGINX, but we're going to manually do the Ubuntu again just because I thought that was pretty easy. There was no need to really wire that up again. It's pretty simple. All we did was use the docker exec command to get an interactive shell, bash shell, right there, the docker exec it cribl with nginx -ubuntu -1 bash. That gave me that shell. And I'm just going to run the same things we did in the previous how-to, which was we're going to update the apt-get. We're going to install curl after that. Okay, that goes by pretty quickly. And then we'll move on to the next command, which is moving into the opt directory. And then we're going to run the command from Ubuntu's, or from from Cribl's download page. The Cribl stream download page gives us a curl command, and we used it in the last tutorial as well. I won't get into how you find that. I'll just paste it here, but that's the command there. Right, we want to be sure we're in the opt directory first. I haven't done that yet. I'll make sure I do that, and then I'll run the curl command. Right, so that downloads and extracts Cribl. It doesn't actually run Cribl. We have to run Cribl now, and I just type that out first. I guess I'll put it on one line here. It's kind of confusing when one line wraps and the other one doesn't. But basically, opt cribl bin cribl start is the command. Yeah, let's make this all one line. Okay, but I made a mistake here. I see that already. Actually, it's not a directory because I put a slash in between cribl and start, but it takes me a little bit to figure it out. That's what I did. There's supposed to be a space there instead. So I figured out here in just a minute in my video, and I'll get caught up. Yeah, we'll put the space there and start. I'll edit the instructions. We'll run that command, and that'll get Cribl started. Cribl stream on the Ubuntu instance. Okay. That's up and running. It says Cribl is started. We should be able to log into that instance now. So I'll open the Cribl UI in a browser for the Ubuntu Cribl. And if you recall correctly, I put that on port 9001. So I'm going to get to it by going to http://localhost:9001/stream. When you can do it without the stream, but I'll show you that real quick. Another way you can do it is come into the Docker desktop and just click on the port number for that container over there. I'm going to show you real quick. You can put stream there. It's still going to take you back to the login page unless you've already logged in. And I'm going to try to log in, but I forget that I haven't changed my password yet, right? This is a fresh install, so the username and password's admin and admin. So now that I remember that, I'll update my notes. User admin, password admin. All right, then we need to register the product, and we need to let Cribl know that you're following along the Ableversity tutorial. So just throw in Ableversity as your company name if you're not using this in production. I'm sure you're not following a tutorial for production yet. Okay, so make your own tutorial for production. They're called deployment instructions, right? Deployment plans. Follow your deployment plan. Don't follow my how-to for production. Okay, but it's easy for them to track who's just taking our training if you throw in Ableversity as your company. Feel free to do that. Now we have to change the password. I'll try and type that correctly 2 times. Get past all the pop-ups to update it, to save it. Don't want none of that. And then we'll close this window here. Well, that's pretty much ready to go. So now what we want to do is step 7, which we're going to add our NGINX instance as a data destination for syslog data. I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty simple. In the Ubuntu Cribl UI, we'll click on data and then destinations in syslog. Data's in the upper light colored drop-down menu. So data, destinations. Okay, it's easier if you just type in the name that you're looking for, I believe. That's the quick way. So I type in syslog right there and click on syslog. Easy peasy. Now we want to add the destination. we have to click on the Add Destination button. It's up there in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, and now we need to give it an output ID. So I'm just going to call it syslog out, or maybe syslog to nginx. It's a little more appropriate. And then for my host, I'm going to put the actual container name that we have, which is going to be Cribl with nginx -nginx-1, and then the port. We type that up for you here. We'll add this destination again, Cribl with nginx-nginx-1 :5140. Okay, so if that was our address, that's our nginx instance listening on 5140. We'll separate it by name and port here in the Cribl UI, and we'll save it. So that's it. Okay, so at this point, that destination is configured. Well, I had to click save, so I add that to the notes here. But step 8, we're going to log into the manager, capture data, and then we're going to run the test from the Ubuntu instance. I'll show you how to do that. Again, pretty easy stuff here. The trickiest part is making sure you're in the right host. So the first thing I'm going to do is open my manager user interface. So the way I'll do that is just going back to Docker Desktop, open port 19,000 is what the manager was on. And I have updated the password here, so I'm going to go ahead and type in the correct password. Okay, and then there's a couple of ways to get there. You can go to data or home and then manage. I'm sorry. You can go to home and then click on your default worker group, or you can go to manage and click on the worker group. Okay, it doesn't really matter how you get to the worker group, the default worker group that we have. Just get to your worker group. A couple of ways to do it. Again, more than one way to do it. No problem however you do it, but when you get there, you see the new menu that has the data drop down, right? And on our manager, we don't see that until we get down into the worker group. It's because it's a distributed instance, okay? So you basically, two options there, home and click on your default worker group, or manager and click on the worker group. Or manage, I'm sorry. So then once you've got that going, we can go to data, sources, and syslog. This should be previously configured from step 1 and the prereq. We should have it here, and now we can click on live, right? And when we click on live, it's automatically going to do a capture. If it's your first time, you want to stop the capture and then start the capture again. And this way you can make sure you change the time period or the time in seconds. And I like to make sure it's over a minute so I can get back to my other Ubuntu instance. So I set it to 120 seconds. And mine has remembered that setting, but by default it's set to something like 10 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. And that may not be enough time for you to run this test. So just go ahead and set it to a little bit higher time for capture time, and then click on start. Okay, so now it's waiting 120 seconds or 10 events. It's looking for the first of either. And on the Ubuntu instance, we can go ahead and run the test. Now the way we do that is we open the syslog destination that we previously created. I called it output. All right, and then we go to the test tab, and then it's pretty easy. We click on run test. Okay. So you can see immediately there, I got a big green success check mark. And if you get that, then you followed along just perfectly, and I taught you correctly. You got it done, and it worked. If you have an error here, then just leave me a moment, or leave me a comment, right? Ping me, find me on LinkedIn, look me up somehow, find me or Ableversity, and we'll help you figure out the problem. But basically, if you didn't skip any steps, you should be good to go now. You have an Ubuntu instance that sends through the network load balancer, which is NGINX, and it goes all the way through to your Cribl workers. So if you like this tutorial, step 9 is to share it with your friends, and step 10 is profit. So I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know what I can do to make them better. Maybe the zoom is out, maybe it's blurry, maybe you've just got a question and you'd like to see something else demonstrated. So come to our comments and let me know.